All right, team. Scoops here. Final one of the year before we review his team. Hopefully next week we'll work out a time to go through that and his lessons learned. That'll be really, really cool to see. But today we're here so you guys can say goodbye. Thank you for the season as well. And then we're going to help Scoop make his final trade. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing well. Prep for the Spoon Bowl, 16th V17. Let's get it on. Sold out. Everyone's in for it. So I look forward to Friday night. And yeah, well, footy wise, not so good, and fantasy wise, not so good last week. I wasn't expecting to get 785 with a couple extra players last week, but I didn't look at the hourly update for the Eels game, did I? And so I start looking at it. I'm like, hang on, that person is locked in and not playing. So unfortunately, no little meant that I got Karapani's 13 and a couple of other low ones. Hey, Drinkwater versus a depleted Storm did kind of not much.
That's for sure. What trade do you reckon you might have done if you saw it?
Oh, if I had if I hadn't gone little, I probably would have backed out and gotten a mid because I knew Adam Fanil-Blake was out this week, or I would have bought a half so that I didn't have to move Whiten, and that way I could keep Plath up at middle for round 27.
Very fair. So what are you thinking for this weekend? This weekend, then you're about even 17 coming into this week.
Yeah, well, when I make this last trade, I will have 17. So
Okay.
it'll be all right. But yeah, the thing is, because I'll have exactly 17, that means I'm not limited to what position I need to buy from or anything like that. Because I do have a starting 13.
Okay.
So it really comes down to who's the play, who's going to score the most points out of all the matchups. I've got a bit of a list, couple of reasons, and it might be good to get your thoughts on some of them too. So obviously, one of the top ones is Nico Hines is averaging close to the most, but he didn't do a lot last week. However, he's
Yeah.
back on the right now, 7. Do you reckon he's going to be fully fit, or is Trindle going to sort of help him through this game, and then they'll rev up in the final?
Yeah. Well, is that what you think it was? Just get him through the first game and then go from there. That's the big question. Because if he goes back to goal kicking and all that, I'll probably have him higher on my list as well.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. I think that he's going to score well. I just don't know whether that is a 50 because Trindle's taking some kick meters and a couple of other things, or his regular 65 sort of a thing.
Mm.
So I'm Hines is definitely high on my list.
Yep.
But yeah, last week and just Trindle in general d does cap Hines just a little bit. So high on my list, but we'll see how I think.
Much cash in the bank.
I've got enough if I trade out for Neil Blake to get anyone who's playing except Yo.
Damn it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what's going to happen this week though, hey, because they haven't rested. But if they beat Titans, they've made it. If Roosters hadn't slipped up, I would have really been upset that I'd missed Yo. But now I'm pretty annoyed. He would have been probably just about the top of the list, but now a little less so, I guess.
That makes sense. So let's go through that then. So who in this list are you thinking about? What's the short list for you? Hines.
Yeah, I've got Hines in my sights. I've got DCE. He scores a bit better the last few years without Turbo. But I also just noted a couple minutes before I jumped on, Lachlan Croker playing at hooker in the spine actually reduces his involvement more than I expected.
Hmm.
This year, he's had one game over 100 run meters with Lachlan Croker in about 15, and 50% of his games without Lachlan Croker were over 100 run meters. And there's like about 7 or 8 points average difference. So
Yeah, wow.
probably crossed off my list, but yeah, anyway. Watson I've got, Grant I've got. Oh, I'll start over on the left. So you I can't get, unfortunately. Carrigan, Ponga, Teddy I've got. Tarpanay I really want to have a look at because big mid, straight replaces AFB. They need to have a good performance if there's going to be any 1% chance that they make finals because there's a draw from the Dolphins and the Knights. But yeah, I just think Tarpanay's been on a really good run of form. And he does this sometimes. He revs up towards the back end of the year, has a couple of really good games. We could be looking at something like that again. So I'm very happy to have Tarpanay as one of my options. Hughes I have. Farnworth, hey, far out. When was
Yeah,
the last
crazy.
time your center scored 100? It's got to be Talakai, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's had a high 80s and a 90 odd this year as well. So massive.
Yeah, yeah,
Up
good
to a
stuff
55
against
average now.
yeah, well that see that's crazy. Like 3 or 4 years ago, 45 was a gun center average, and now Farnworth is just digging it out with a 55, and he's not even in like a top four team or anything like that.
Yeah, and
So
Gagai too. So
I'm yeah, I'm
yeah.
tempted to go with him, but I don't know whether that's points chasing, but he's just been very good.
Well,
So
what do you
yeah.
want? Do you want a safe 60 or do you want some upside that could get you a 40?
Yeah, that's a tough one, hey. So I'm ranked I went back from 5.9 to 6.7K with that 780.
I can't
So,
believe I beat
in
you.
all honesty, why not just push the high ceiling? See if I can somehow streak back to 5K.
Yeah, well, in that case, does Hines come into play then because he has more of those massive scores, but the recent form isn't there. Whereas recent form wise, we're looking at Ponga, Farnworth, Lucas. You've got like guys like Preston. Hines is going to be in there. DC not as much. You've got Little potentially. And then Dylan Brown coming off that massive score and he plays the Tigers. So like they're probably like your recent form guys that could go in 80, but we know that Tarpany can go in that 80 odd as well when they really need a win. Yeah, if
Yeah.
it is their last game of the season, like is he going to play that 60 minutes or so? Like, but
Yeah.
yeah,
If
I
if
personally
we
wouldn't have DC on the list. I know he can do it, but it just doesn't look the same the last month.
yeah,
Yeah, interesting.
I'd agree with that. Dylan Edwards would have been pretty high on my list if I wasn't scared to be rested, but also he doesn't look fully fit.
Mm.
So I don't think those big non-Cleary scores are going to be there.
I
So
skipped
yeah.
on Hughes as well, but he's been killing it in recent times. Obviously coming off the bye, but like I just don't. I feel like he's an easy candidate for a rest this game too. Hey, 65 in if
Yeah.
they're doing well.
So because the Roosters lost, they only need to just win in their top two. So I really feel like for uh, Luai, Hughes, Panthers and Storms, they can just come off after 60 because they're playing
Mm.
what, Rabbitohs and Titans. If they're
Yeah,
up
they
by
should be winning.
25, they just come off.
Yeah, that's my worry with those guys. Whereas with like Tarpany and Little and these guys, they're like Little's gonna be fighting for it. They need to win obviously to make sure, and then yeah, Tarpany will be fighting Farnworth as well. Like they're playing for a spot in the eight. Gagai, Lucas, these types of guys. Is where it's at, and
Yeah,
then Hines as well. He'd like a comeback, and for them to get a win as well. So there's a lot of those kind of guys rolling around. I just put
yeah,
Fuller in there as well, who I didn't speak about in the other
yeah.
spot, but it's likely a 50. Whereas these guys were hoping for that sort of 70 upside, which most people on this list have. To be fair,
Yeah, it's funny that sort of the two with some of the better upside that I don't have are both centers.
yeah,
It's good. Gagai and Farnworth both have pumped out. What did Gagai got like 89 the other week or something? So both of
yeah,
them have been
and then
doing it and
58.
could do it.
Mm.
Yeah. So I really, if I'm looking for ceiling, neither of them I've got the greatest defenses. I think the Dolphins have leaked a couple of points in some of their wins though. So in all honesty, it could be just go one of those two guys again.
Hmm. It's pretty cool that we've got 20 or so guys that could all go anywhere between sort of 40 and 100. Like most of them can get right up there, which is going to be a fun last round. And that's where we've seen the last month, hey, where it's guys that are getting 30 and then the other guys on the other side are getting 70 and 80. And it's just the turnarounds and the rank changes week to week. Like some of the guys in the
Oh,
top picked up 1,050 and then, there's other guys up there and then us included that are under 800 or 850 or something. It's 250 point swings at the moment.
yeah, it has been crazy. I was talking to the bloke who was sixth last week and then had Farnworth to prop him into first. And it just, if you hit the hits, you can really make up some ground. This year's been interesting. It's been a lot closer than some of the other years. I remember last year, Booze Clues was leading for like 3 months. 2021, somebody was leading for like 2 months. But this year it's been a lot closer,
Mm.
even though what is it, Mark's brother's been up there. He's been really closely followed.
Yeah, he's probably had the most weeks at one, but yeah, it's up and down. Is it Zarudis leading? Is that Jordan Zarudis?
Yeah, Geordie. Yeah, I
I
think so.
He's been around for a long time. I remember him. He's like Renegades and all
Yeah,
those
that's
days, I
him.
think. I haven't seen him
Extra
in
rush
there
yardage
talking
every
in those
time.
groups, but when he was younger, I think he was chatting all the time in those groups. So yeah, that's pretty cool then to see that. I saw the Jordan Z. I was like, I feel like that has to be him.
Yeah, I think it is.
That's cool then. Good stuff. Oh, anything you want to leave everyone with?
Ah, well,
What are you going
make
to
sure
decide
you.
on the channel or what?
What's that? Sorry.
Are you going to decide on the channel or what? You going to make your pick here, or you gonna wait?
Um. All right. Let's narrow it down to top three and see if I can pick one of those. So I think it does have to be Tarpanay. Um. I want to say Gagai over Farnworth because I feel like the Dolphins might leak a couple of points. But
Okay.
yeah, so Tarpanay, Gagai, and Hines.
Okay.
Now I've got to decide in that time who has the most to play for and what's on the line. So Hines wants a home final. Um, Farnworth wants Gagai wants win and you're in. Tarpanay wants finish the year strong and if there's even a sliver of hope. So maybe that rules out Tarpanay and mids don't get all the tries usually.
Mm.
So Hines or Gagai.
It's wild
Maybe I just
that
go Hines. Maybe I don't make
yeah,
it complicated and pick the guy with the highest average.
correct. Yeah, we're making it sound a bit more complicated than what it is.
Yeah.
It might not work out, but
No.
it
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least yeah.
He's got the floor and he's got a ceiling. So like
You asked
it's
that
really
question.
hard to go wrong with him.
You asked the question in round 10, and yeah, we'd get punched in the face for like even considering it, right? So it's interesting. All right, Heinz it is. I think that's fun. You go into this
Yeah.
into the week going, I've got
Hines,
Nico.
it certainly makes me feel slightly better not having Brendan Hands on my bench instead of in my half slot. So that'll probably make it look
There you
nicer.
go.
We'll score
That
the
might
same amount of points, but you got to make it look nicer.
that might
Do you
be.
have a certain order you like your team in? Like, oh, Carrigan must be in the middle, Ponga must be on the left, all that sort of stuff, or don't think too much about it.
I haven't thought much about that, but I definitely, yeah, most people think about that one, hey, like starting versus bench. Do you think about it in exact positions or?
Oh, mostly I think about it where they're priced or whether they're gun or not. If I've got two guns and a cash cow, I like to have the cash cow in the middle being supported by the guns and weird stuff like that.
Love
But yeah,
that.
it's good fun. But Cleary has to be on the left unless he's partnered with Hines, and then you just pick one.
Yeah, very, very cool. Good stuff, Scuban. We're going to get into some, yeah, we'll get in and check out your team after this week and kind of go through a couple of the good parts, a couple of the bad parts. And it'll be very different to the year before, obviously, but good learnings for
Yeah, I
yourself,
think
obviously.
I think this year will honestly be almost more useful than 2023 because it shows sort of the deficiencies in the game, in my game. Because I've got really strong planning potential, but then I think I was a lot too rigid and unwilling to change. And this year was a big year of learning to pivot at the right time. You
Mm,
kept on top of it and did really well, and I kind of floundered a bit until the end of Origin. So I think that was one of the big learning parts. I think you're about 100 points ahead of me in round 10, 9, and then you just pulled away because you really were pivoting very well, making good trades. And I was just going, oh, maybe one more week, maybe one more week.
yeah,
So yeah,
okay.
be interesting. The new longer season and the more buys might play into that. So I'll be keen to see how it moves into for the third year of it.
Yeah, definitely. It was but even just the restings is like we were all playing like 11 last year in round 27, and now we've all got full teams. It's wild.
I think I think we've learned that it's all it is going to be watch the ladder, watch the ladder, watch
Yeah,
the ladder.
100%. So there, it's gonna be cool learnings as well. It's something different every year, which is keeps us on our toes and shows that it's not yeah, you can't get a foolproof system with what we do, that's for sure. But yeah, we'll get into that next week, and then we'll do our finals fantasy. That's gonna be fun.
Sounds good.
Good stuff. See you guys. Have a good one.